Welcome to the FemiNinja Project. I am your host, Cheryl Ilove, middle-aged ninja hiding in plain sight, dedicated to restoring human dignity one person at a time and helping you unleash your personal power. Discover that it's possible to look like a woman, act like a lady, move like a ninja, and think like a warrior. And remember, men are always welcome on the FemiNinja Project. I have an amazing guest today. Actually, you're familiar with her because she was here with me on my last podcast, Ashley Zimmerman. So Ashley, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me back. Hi, everyone.
It's great to have you. And boy, do you have a story to tell.
Yes.
And that is one of the reasons why I wanted to have you back, not only because you were such a fabulous guest and did a wonderful job of educating us on the pelvic floor and pelvic health and awareness, but there's something else that you did. You just took a trip recently, and when I reached out to you to ask you to be a guest on my show, you were actually out of town and you were in Costa Rica.
Yes, I was.
And just go ahead and tell us what you were doing there, and let's get started.
Let's start. So when she reached out to me, I was in Costa Rica. I was helping out an organization called Face of Justice. Face of Justice is a nonprofit who works to restore freedom to marginalized communities. So they basically help women and young girls who have been sex trafficked, are trying to get out of sex trafficking, who just need help. They're working in prostitution. They do give support to males as well. They have some sister organizations that they work with if a male needs more than what they can offer, right? A place to stay, things like that. Their main goal is to help the young girls and the women. So part of what I did was work at the safe house with the young girls. Young girls, meaning 12 to 17, are the ages that were there now. And these girls have all been rescued or taken out of situations where they were sexually exploited.
Okay. So let's back up just a little bit and tell us how you got involved with this and how this situation and this opportunity for you to go down there and work with these girls and women fell into your lap.
Yeah, it kind of did fall into my lap, right? So my good friend Missy, she is a fellow physical therapist in Denver. She owns Invincible. She's a visceral manipulation therapist. Her and I were talking one night, and she was telling me about this opportunity that she had through doTERRA, the essential oils company. She had been working with this organization, giving them oil donations because Face of Justice tries to use oils instead of medication to help the girls and the women. So she was planning a trip to go down there because she had been trying to educate them via video, which isn't super easy. So she wanted to take a trip down there to teach them. And somebody else was supposed to go with her, and she couldn't go. And so I was like, well, I'll go. And she was like, really? And I was like, yeah. So about 2 weeks later, we booked our trip, and we left.
And did you have any idea what you were getting yourself into?
So I knew I had, of course, researched Face of Justice, right? So, but going down there, we didn't have any intention other than we were going to do whatever they needed us to do to support them. We got donations from Yoga Tune-Up. And then the studio that I work at, Park Meadow Center for Movement, I held a fundraiser there, and the women at the studio graciously donated enough money to provide 25 Gorgeous balls for the girls as well. So we'd used those. So if you're not familiar with what those are, they're balls that you can use for self-release, so pain relief, decreasing tension, helping with tons of different postural components. So we wanted to bring the physical therapy aspect in it somehow, but knowing the situation we were walking into, touch isn't something that would be super appropriate, right? So we couldn't just come down and put our hands on them and start treating them. So we used those tools instead. And then we also were there to help the staff learn how to use the oils so that they could better, be a reference for the girls for whatever, tummy aches to anxiety to freakouts.
Okay, and that's really important. I want to talk about that just a little bit more, because for someone who's listening and might not be familiar with essential oils, how do they work, and why would they be more prone to want to go the essential oil way rather than medication?
So essential oils, I'm sure you've heard, there's a bunch of different companies out there. So if you're going to use essential oils, you can diffuse them, right? You can put them on your skin, so topically, and you can ingest them. So those are kind of the three ways of passage that you can use the essential oils. The reason that they try to practice a little bit more holistic is because these girls are often, they've used alcohol, they've used drugs. The last thing you want to do is hand them more drugs, because you're just masking some of the symptoms that they're coming in with. And they're becoming reliant then on something else that can become toxic in their life and in their body. So using essential oils is a natural way to help them and support their bodies through the function they need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah.
That helps a lot.
Yes. So we gave the staff classes on how to use the essential oils. So that was the main purpose with the oils, is just educate them. We made some specific rollers for them. So
like the foam rollers?
No, like the essential oil rollers.
Oh, okay.
So we put like a mixture of different oils, and then you add a carrier oil to it. And the reason we did that is because it can be kind of overwhelming, right? If you have all these oils and to try to remember what to do with each of them. And so we took like immunity as one of the big things that they worry about, because if one of the girls gets sick, everybody gets sick in that house. So we made like an immunity roller. So if somebody was sick, that's what they grab, that's what they use, right? There was one that you can use for addiction. There was one that you can use just for calming. And so we made a couple of them with them, so they know how to remake them, that they can use, they can just grab. It's like their go-to thing. They don't have to stop and think about it. And then with the balls, we used the balls, and we had like a little ball class with the girls who were in the house, and taught them how to use them. Anything from shoulder pain to back pain, hip pain, that kind of stuff. And, it's interesting because I mentioned before, right? It wouldn't be appropriate for us to go down and try to pretend that we're going to be these girls' best friends. We're only there for a week, right? It's not appropriate for us to just try to get to know them and then leave, right? They've had enough of that in their lives, right? So we used the balls as a way to give them a tool to help support themselves. The balls give them the power. So if they're having shoulder pain, let's say, right? We showed them a couple different ways that they can use the ball to help relieve their shoulder pain. And they're in charge of it. They're placing the ball where they want it to be. They don't have to have somebody else touching them in order to get relief.
Well, and that's what I was just thinking, that word empowerment.
Yeah.
You actually empower them to be able to take care of their own body and not to have to try and rely on somebody else.
Yes, exactly.
And to learn how to take care of themselves,
Yeah.
because a lot of them, we were talking earlier, they'd been trafficked from a very young age.
Yes.
And I asked you where they came from or how they ended up in human trafficking.
So one of the questions I had going down there was, how do they get the girls, right? Because in my head, I picture this big rescue where they like run out on the street and grab them, and you put them in your car and you like speed off, right? That's in fact not what happens. So most of the girls, if not all of them, actually come from family situations. And so Face of Justice gets involved with what's like equivalent to children or child protective services in the US. So they have to be involved because they have to know where these girls are going. So it could be Face of Justice that gets information that there's a girl who needs help, or it could be this government organization that contacts Face of Justice. So however they find the girl, both teams are involved.
Okay.
And then they go in, not Face of Justice, the government goes in and gets the girl. They go in and remove her from the home situation and bring them to Face of Justice.
So are they in a home situation? You had mentioned that their families actually sell them.
Yes. So the families are the ones usually selling the girls. Yeah.
God. And then when they sell their child into a situation like this, then the girl goes to a home where she is used and abused, or what happens?
So, well, multiple things can happen. The unfortunate thing is if a girl is involved in trafficking, the best age, right, or the average age is 12 to 14. So, but that doesn't mean that those are the only ages, right? The girls in the house were 12 to 17. Some of them had been there for a little while. But there's another organization that Face of Justice works with that takes in the girls who've become pregnant from this type of stuff, and their youngest girl was 9. So it's not just 12 to 14-year-olds, although that's the average. And when they're put in this situation of being trafficked, the average number of times they're sold a day is 18 to 20. So it's not just they go to one person.
Right.
It's 18 to 20 times. A day is the average, yeah.
I mean, I can't even wrap my head around that.
I know.
I mean, yeah. I and how did you handle even hearing this information?
So, sometimes I think, I know, right, that there's still things that maybe I haven't totally processed. Because it's so, when you hear numbers like that, and then I see these girls in front of me, and when we were teaching them how to use the balls, some of them were laughing hysterically on the floor and having a great time. They're teenagers. Some of them showed a little bit of attitude, which was also kind of welcoming because it's like, okay, they're teenagers, right? Yeah. Some of them were a little bit standoffish and they kind of stuck to themselves, which is totally fine. They still were learning. Every one of them watched, so they all got something from it, right? But when you hear numbers like that and then you see these tiny little beings in front of you, I had to just kind of not think about it while I was
detachment.
With them. Yes, yeah. I had to just not think of it while I was with them because you just
can't process that.
Yeah,
you can't wrap your mind around it.
Yeah.
And especially considering how they got there. And now tell us a little bit of the safe house that you were at and the area that was located in.
So the safe house is actually in a really cute neighborhood, with awesome food. So that was cool. But they also help women who are in prostitution. So think of, the girls who don't get saved and come to the safe house. It's them 10 or so years later, right? So now these women are in prostitution. So they have a center in what they call the red zone. So the red zone is the area of town where most of the prostitution takes place. Lots of violence, very unsafe. 911 doesn't answer your calls from that area of town. So just a place that you don't want to be. So we would go down during the day and open up that space for women only. And they could come in. So they will do breakfast, hot breakfasts for them. They hold a sewing class. They hold I think it was Wednesdays. They hold like a Bible study. They do things like that. So the way that they try to help the women in prostitution is, first of all, giving them a safe place to go, right, where they can breathe, right, and have some connection with women around them, not have to worry about what they're going to do next or what street they're going to walk down next. They can go and just sit, they're safe, and just be, right? With the sewing program, so there's 2 main ways that they can help them then get out of prostitution. They have a sewing class, so they can come and make bags, and then they sell the bags. And then they work with Free the Girls, which is an organization that provides bras. In Costa Rica, bras are a luxury. And you cannot resell a bra that's been returned to a store.
Even if it hasn't been used at all.
Correct. It's illegal for, I don't know why.
Go figure. So you can't return a bra because that's illegal, but you've got all of this prostitution and human trafficking going on, and the authorities are kind of looking the other way? Or...
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why that's a law. I have no idea. So Free the Girls, though, they donate bras that have been returned. So they're new, but they've been returned. And then the women, through Face of Justice, they put them through like a training program like you would for any job here, right? Like you go through training, they learn how to sell the bras, and then they get their first inventory given to them and they go sell the bras, and that's how they make their money instead of being on the streets selling themselves.
Wow.
Yes.
That's just mind-boggling. It really is.
Yeah.
And you told me a story earlier about a woman who, I guess, you talk about the husbands.
Okay. So I mentioned selling the bags.
Yes.
Okay. So most of the women, a lot of the women have what they call husbands. Now, not all of them are actually married, but they have men in their lives who they refer to as their husband. Most
these
of
are
the
the
time,
ones who've graduated from being trafficked into prostitution.
Correct.
Because that's kind of like a natural segue if they do not get rescued.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So they're in prostitution. Their husbands usually don't have a job. So all of the money is coming from the women prostituting. So while we were there one day, this lady came in and she had 3 bags that she had sewn. She sold those 3 bags to women, to the volunteers actually who were there that day. And because she sold those bags, she didn't have to go out onto the street. And I can't remember exactly how many days they said that was keeping her off the street. I feel like it was a week, but it might have been like 5 to 7 days-ish, I think.
Just for 3 bags.
For 3 bags.
So think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, $10 a bag, that for us is absolutely nothing.
Exactly.
And it kept her off the streets for 5 to 7 days.
Yeah.
And what was her quote unquote husband doing at the time?
So he was at home.
Oh. Good for him.
Yeah. And she was actually on her period. So she made a comment to one of the other volunteers that was there that day. Imagine having to find a job while you're on your period. And she would have had to, I don't know, stay out till she got enough money that was acceptable to go home to her husband.
So obviously they're not paid very well either. If 3 bags for $10, $30 is enough to keep her off the streets for 5 to 7 days, how much are they getting paid for a job?
Right. Yeah.
It's just heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking. Okay, give me a minute. Shake it off. So when we were talking about this earlier, and I was asking you if this was specific to, Costa Rica or if this was specific, and then we started talking about trafficking because I think I made a comment, here we are safe in Denver, and we both kind of looked at each other because are we ever really safe?
Right.
So talk about the statistics of human trafficking in Denver.
So Denver is the 3rd highest trafficked city in the United States. It's estimated that 40 million worldwide are involved in trafficking, human trafficking. For every victim that's identified, it's estimated that there's 20 more that go unidentified. Jeez. So, when you look at the surface numbers, that's what we know, right? That's what we can see kind of in front of us, but we don't know the depths of this because for every one that's identified, to have 20 more behind them somewhere, that's just insane. That's outrageous.
It is outrageous.
Yeah.
And so in Costa Rica you've got the Face of Justice, what do we have here in Denver? So
Denver has a couple of things that's actually pretty cool. So there's an organization called Shift.
Okay.
It's actually a student-led movement.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so what they do, they actually just had the Shift conference.
That's
Ironically, it went on while I was in Costa Rica. Okay. So I couldn't go, but I heard it was... so we weren't there, but I heard it was great.
Well, next time they have it, you can be on the panel.
Sure.
I mean, that would be wonderful.
Yeah. So it's shiftfreedom.org is their website.
Okay.
So
we will include that on the podcast so people can find it.
On there you can find all kinds of information about what they do. Basically, their goal is to kind of create kind of the same thing that's happening with Face of Justice, right? Like they want to have a place to go, like a 24/7 care place for girls. They want to just create awareness. They want to raise money to help end this problem. One of the things on their website that you can do right now is create a packet, like a toiletry package.
Okay.
So, travel size shampoo, conditioner, body wash, toothbrush, toothpaste, lotions, those types of things. And you can go on there and find where you can drop them off and give them that. So that right now, while they're in the process of creating something bigger, we can still be helping these girls. And then the other thing that Denver has that's really cool, Denver Street School, which was founded in 1985. So in 2015, they opened Hope Academy, which is specifically developed for adolescent girls who've experienced this complex trauma. And so we'll include this as well, but it's denverstreetschool.org. And so there's multiple different ways that you can get involved with that, right? You can donate, you can volunteer, you can just educate yourself and educate others. And then Missy and I are also, we were so moved and so touched. One of the things that we haven't really talked about is the volunteers and the staff members there. So it's a 24/7 job, even if they're not at the location. They're never really off duty, right? And we just feel so inclined to continue to help them and help support them because we know that there's so many things that they need. They're in the middle of opening a second safe house right now. So currently all of the girls are in one space. Some of the girls are doing awesome. Some of the girls need 24-hour psychiatric care. And because all of the girls are together and those dynamics are mixing, it can create for some dysfunctionality. So what they're doing right now is opening a new house for the girls who are ready to have more responsibility. So this new house has a yard, which seems super trivial, and they get to have a dog. So they get to take care of a dog. Think about that. Like, that's what they're looking at.
And the dog can take care of them.
Absolutely. Yes. So because of that, that's a lot more costs, right? And the girls who are in the safe house that they have currently, there's no outdoor space there. It's too much of a security risk for them to have ways to really get out. So then the girls who need a little bit more help and a little bit more care can be there, but and then they have somewhere to look forward to going, right? They can transfer into this other house once they're ready for more responsibility and so forth. So Missy and I have created, we can link to this too, but we've created, we made a Facebook page. It's called the Body Freedom Project. And so what we're doing is once a month, we're offering a movement class, a body freedom movement class at Project Move is the location. It's in Littleton. So it's called Project Move is the location. All of that information is in the Facebook group. And we've also created a CrowdRise fundraising. So all of that is in there as well, because we know that not all of the people who want to help are local. The class is donation based. So all proceeds are going to Face of Justice for whatever they need it for, but the money goes directly to them. We're just asking for donation. We want to use our expertise in physical therapy and movement to help the people here that we know. But then we want to just help them.
So are these classes for the public?
Yes,
or
classes are for the
general
public. General public. Anybody can come.
Then you get awareness about what's going on and how they can help.
Yes,
got it.
Absolutely. And then our Facebook group has all of the information, the link to the CrowdRise account, when the classes are, where the classes are, other ways that you can help, that kind of stuff.
Excellent. Oh, that's really good. Okay, so that's something uplifting. It's a dark story. It's a really heavy, emotional, and disturbing story, but it has to be told.
It has to.
People have got to know what's going on, even in our own backyard. And so we talked about awareness and, raising awareness and helping, people know what to look for. How can we, as just normal people in the community, raise our awareness and be able to identify somebody who might need help, somebody who's at risk for being trafficked, somebody who is being trafficked. You just see them passing on the street. Because I've had people tell me before, I saw this man, he was probably in his 40s, nice looking guy with a young girl, and she looked really uncomfortable, and they almost intervened and said, hey, is everything okay? And then she thought, oh, none of my business. So, you don't want to overstep your boundaries or have somebody pull a gun on you. You want to keep yourself safe, but to be able to be aware.
Yeah. So speaking off of that story that you just said, your instincts, right? Sometimes you got to listen to that.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to, who am I to like run up to these guys? Like, what am I going to do? Right. But that's when you get the authorities involved. So if you feel like there's something off, call the authorities. They'll check it out. Unfortunately, it's the marginalized communities that are more susceptible to this. So, children who are on the streets already. One of the crazy statistics that I saw was 1 in 3 kids who are on the streets are persuaded into prostitution within 48 hours of them being on the streets. So that's pretty astonishing. And I'm not an expert on like the classes as far as like how do you identify a sex trafficked victim, but on denverstreetschool.com, there are specific ways that you can educate yourself. There's classes out there that you can take to help yourself with as far as that goes.
So basically, we really don't have an excuse.
Exactly.
We do not have an excuse to sit back and say, it's not my problem, it doesn't affect me, it doesn't impact me, because if it impacts one person, one poor kid, and if you can just stop one.
Yeah. So, the other thing that I'm going to say about that is our culture, we are bombarded with images that make it look kind of cool.
Oh, yeah.
And we haven't talked about this, but I was across the street from the largest brothel in Central America while I was there. And what we were doing, so Face of Justice, their thing is, can you help a heart with a cup of coffee? Like, they believe that you can. So what they do is they hand out coffee and tea and cookies to the women working the streets. They literally drive around at night during the week and hand out. They stop, they see their friends. And when I say friends, they are legitimate friends with these people. The girls on the street look forward to the van pulling up. They give them the biggest hugs, and they hand them coffee. Ugh. They give them cookies. And then they spend a good 15 to 20 minutes talking before they move on and go see their next friend. And that's something that these women, they don't get. They're not treated like real humans, right? And cookies and coffee is all it takes, right? In a conversation. It's not going to save every one of them. But while I was there, actually, one of the girls said, okay, I'm ready. What do I do next?
Ready to leave.
Like, okay, I'm ready. And then you take the next steps. Face of Justice takes the next steps to help them through it. But anyways, I'm standing across the street from the biggest brothel in Central America. God. And it's nighttime. It's dark out. The curtains are open. And you can see what's going on. Which is disturbing all in of itself, right? But then there's men standing in the street taking selfies with that going on in the background. And that is disgusting.
So they knew. I mean,
totally. So Hotel Del Rey is what it's called, and it's a huge sex tourism.
So make sure you write that down on your list of not to go to that place if you're in Costa Rica.
That is one of the greatest examples of how our culture is ruining us, right? Like, how is it ever acceptable to go on vacation for sex? Like, sex tourism is a thing. It's a real thing, and it's disgusting. And I don't know how many American men I saw there, but it was a lot. And when I got on the plane on Sunday and I saw groups of men get on without any females,
you just wanted to rip their hearts out.
I was like questioning in my head, like, did I see you last night? What were you doing? Why are you here?
You probably should have held up your cell phone and said, gentlemen, I have photos of some of you on here.
Yeah.
I knew you looked familiar.
Yeah.
It would have been wonderful to see the reaction.
I know. It was, and that was one of the, if not the most challenging, difficult things that I've ever seen. Because I, to my soul, I cannot comprehend why.
Yeah.
They go in, they pick a girl. They literally pick a girl from a circle of women, and that's who they buy for the night. And they either get a room in the hotel, or there was this guy who was driving a silver Nissan Xterra, and he would park on the corner by us, walk through us, so he had to see us every time, he walked through. He would get a guy and a girl, put him in the car, drive off with them, circle around, get another guy and a girl, put him in a car, drive off. And that was his job, was just to drive them to a different location. I'm assuming that if you bought a girl and went somewhere else, maybe it was cheaper. You didn't have to buy a room at the hotel, or maybe all the hotel rooms were full. I don't know. I don't know, but that was his job. And when we were talking earlier, I told her that I had to remind myself that it's not appropriate to throw the hot coffee directly on their face.
Well, didn't he ask you for coffee?
So he didn't, but there were men who came up to us and asked for coffee.
Oh, God. What nerve, what chutzpah, what arrogance.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I clearly didn't ask them, oh, what are you doing here?
Yeah, that was a smart move on your part.
So, some of them I'm sure were the pimps. Yeah. So you just hand them the coffee and wish them well. Yeah. Because, one of the things is though, like there's one guy in particular that I remember I handed him coffee and shook his hand, and I looked into his eyes, right? Because I don't know what kind of expression I had on my face. Probably not a very nice one, but there wasn't anything behind his eyes.
It was blank.
And they haven't had an awesome life either. And so maybe giving him some humility helped. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know.
Well, and that brings me to one other question too, that, you're talking about being in this really incredibly dangerous area, and right across from the biggest brothel, in Central America, and all the other details that you were talking about. And I said, what did your parents say about this?
So, I didn't actually tell them a whole lot about what I was going to do. I think I told my mom that I was going to work with, my mom knew that I was going to work with girls who escaped sex trafficking, but I didn't tell them that I was going to be in the streets. So
that was probably a good idea, because if you were my kid and you told me that, you wouldn't be going anywhere. I don't care how old you were.
So, and I don't know that they know all of the details still. So if they're listening,
Oops.
Don't worry, I'm fine.
She's fine. Actually, she is. And she's radiant. She looks absolutely fine. She's just great.
So, they're kind of used to me doing things of such nature, like deciding I'm going to go and spend my time doing something that they probably wouldn't. But that's okay,
Yeah, that's okay.
They just, told me to stay safe. And
I'm sure they worried every single minute that you were gone.
Yeah, well, and it probably didn't help, because I told my dad, I said, before I left, I said, okay, I'm not going to have internet very much, so I'm just going to spend the whole week without any plug-in, which was awesome, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure that was, yeah.
So I sent him an email saying that I got there. Actually, that's not true. I told my brother to tell him that I made it. And I told my sister to tell my mom that I made it, and that was it. And I didn't talk to them until I landed in the States again.
And I would even say, I'd say, were you just, did you want to stop and kiss the ground when you landed in the States again, but just knowing that this happens right here in our own backyard?
I think when I landed back in the States, I was still a little bit in shock. I don't know that I knew
I would
what
imagine,
to think.
Because that was just, again, what you witnessed and what you experienced is just so huge and so overwhelming. And then all of a sudden, here you are.
Yeah.
Back in your own home.
And going to work the next day. I journaled I journaled while I was there.
Okay.
Which the last trip that I took, kind of like this, I didn't journal. and I journaled this time and it helped so much more. It just helped me kind of like get things out. And then when I was on the plane on the way home, I journaled for about 2 hours.
I'll bet.
So if you don't journal, try it. It's amazing. It's very therapeutic.
So you had a trip similar to this prior to?
Not working with trafficking. Okay. I went with a group through the God's Child Project to Guatemala.
Oh, okay.
I built houses and helped in a malnutrition center.
You are amazing.
Well, that was with my PT class. My
Really?
last year of PT school. Yeah, it was amazing. It was totally life-changing as well. Yeah. This trip was life-changing in a different way, but both of them equally as
So
awesome.
I actually have something for you. And I have only done this once on the FemiNinja show, and that was a few weeks ago. Of all of my belts on the wall that you can see, the one I am the most proud of is my white belt. Because my white belt, the white belt symbols a new start, a new way of looking at life, and just a whole new world opening up. So I didn't plan this well, so hang on. I am presenting you with your white belt.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
I mean, I can't believe the things that you're doing.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Excited and so proud of you. It's like, oh my God, I want to adopt you now.
Just feed me and I'm good with that.
Oh, okay. Well, good to know. Do you like chicken? Because I
love
okay,
chicken.
Good. And I actually recently got in trouble for my chicken, but that's another long story. And it's kind of funny. I can tell you when we're done recording.
Thank you so much.
I am so proud of you.
So
You
nice.
really have the warrior spirit in you.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So, well, don't let anybody know that because I have a reputation, so don't tell anybody. Okay,
yeah.
Is there anything you want to leave us with?
The only thing that I feel like I need to say is just to educate yourself. We're gonna link to these awesome places that you can go.
Absolutely, and the website, the Facebook page.
Yes.
I really want my listeners to check that out.
Yeah.
I think it'd be wonderful.
So you can come meet Missy and I at these movement classes. You can donate, $5, isn't that much. You can donate $5, but it makes a difference.
Yeah.
And then just educating yourself on how it happens. It happens here in Denver. I mean, the third highest in the United States is pretty...
That's just staggering.
Yeah.
I'm so disappointed. And why is it?
So, I don't know. I don't really know for sure. I assume that the major highways in and out and the big airport hub.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But it's shocking.
It is
and we
shocking.
just have to do better.
Yeah.
We owe the young girls better.
Absolutely.
And we just owe them more.
It is our job to help protect them.
Yes.
And the boys too.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, Ashley, it is just, I want to say it's a pleasure, and it has been. I mean, it's just been incredibly educational and enlightening, and you are such an inspiration. I'm going to have you on again.
Okay.
Because, I really enjoy you. And I want to just reinforce to my listeners, go to these websites, go to these links, and just see what you can do. Check out the movement classes. Maybe we could even have a FemiNinja Day at the movement center or something like that. That would be wonderful. So check it out. Thank you so much for listening. And just remember that keeping our children safe is all of our responsibility. And when you hear some of those statistics, it's absolutely mind-boggling. So do your part.
Yeah.
And make sure that we can help keep other people safe who can't protect themselves. That is the way of the FemiNinja. So thank you so much for listening, and until next time, bye now. And that's a wrap on another episode of the FemiNinja Project. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, be safe, be strong, and until next time, bye now.